Hi and welcome back to the channel. Book review time again. This time I'm going to talk about A Drowned Kingdom by P.L. Stewart. Book one of, well, the Drowned Kingdom saga, I believe it's called. Yes, it's an epic fantasy, high fantasy book told around and using very loosely the story of Atlantis. So what can I tell you about it? So in general, you have a story that follows one main protagonist, which is Othran, who is the younger prince or son of the king, and his journey through life essentially is what's happening. Him and his people, the Atlanteans, who see themselves as a very noble race. They see themselves as a very pious race. They see themselves as very much the center of the universe. They are the biggest power within the world, but they still, in very broad terms, as an allegory to the spread of religion anywhere along the world, they seek to go around and conquer the world and speak to people and convert them to the religion by murdering them. Yeah, okay, these are very well known traits of history, etc. Murdering them first, but convert them later, and kind of spread the good word of the one true God. Except this is a world that has a very strong belief in a pagan religious system. So they believe in goddesses looking after the different parts of the world. So fire goddess, earth goddess, water goddess, etc. And that you should, pay tribute, make sacrifice, please those goddesses in order for them to be appeased. Except Othran is a very, like I say, very pious young man, and who very strongly believes in the one true God, and the one true God, if we can get everybody to convert to that, is right, and everything else is heresy. So that is a construct at the start of the book of roughly what the story's about, or the kind of broad themes of it. But what I will say about Drowned Kingdom is, and I don't really know the story of Atlantis well enough to know whether it's totally like for like, but it plants you, the reader, into the story, kind of jumped in, of something that's a very complex world. And I have to say, one of the real strengths of the book is how this amount of stuff that you need to know about the world is told you through constructs or through ways in which things created. Now, I'll give you a very good example of this at the start. So I've told you about the pagan belief system, I've told you about the one true God system, I've told you about the relationships of the Atlanteans to the rest of the world, I've told you about the younger brother. He's the younger brother, the second son to the king. The book starts with the heir to the king, the eldest brother, and him, both, and Othran going away to, and as an emissary to a group of people at the start. But first 3 or 4 chapters are about this, and within the storytelling, within their relationships and the way that they appear as emissaries, a lot of this very naturally appears. And I can't tell you how bowled over I was, especially for those first 3 or 4 chapters, where I went, oh my god, I understand so much about the history of this world. I understand so much about who these characters are. I understand about the interrelationships between the two princes. I understand about their different roles within society, about the hierarchical nature of the society, about who their parents were, who their mothers were. Everything about it was told within these pages, but told in a very beautiful and lyrical style. And how I got to the end of that section and went, wow, that was pretty amazing, because there was a lot of dense narrative world building that had went on in that period, to the point where I was like, this is extraordinary. I understand the world, I understand the characters, I understand their flaws, I understand their positives, and I understand a lot about them just from how that was set up. And that brings me on to the characters themselves, because the Atlanteans are a group of people that are full of hubris. They are full of belief that they are there and are the most important people on the planet. They are the people that are the center of the universe, so to speak. And their relationship with their God and their relationship with the world around them is a result of their own greatness. And this creates some arrogant princes and arrogant people within the world. So not only just the princes, but their surrounding family, their uncles, etc. And they make them very interesting characters to follow, especially Othran, who's the one that we generally follow. I do feel like I should do a bit of a character profile and look at some of the language about how expertly he is told and represented as a character, because he's very imperfect. But one of my favourite things at the moment to read and to discover and to discuss is actually this idea that people, especially young people, we judge them very, very quickly. We expect them to be the best version of themselves very young, and especially young men. I was a young man once, you'll find it hard to believe. But they often take a long time to realise that their arrogance and their hubris and the things that they believe to be absolute and true are often not just that, and that they have a journey to go on and a way to go through life that will teach them a lot and change who they are. And the very strong lines that they have at one point, they may find that are softened over time, but are done this through at the core of them being what is essentially a good person, or somebody that sees things right for how it is. And that is our author. And for all of his faults, he's arrogant, he dismisses other people, he believes he's above all other people in a lot of ways. He has a core and a sense of himself that he believes to be right and just, and that we as a reader follow along with this character thinking, right, there's enough about them that makes me want to see them become that better person themselves, and through that influence the world around them in positive ways, which is hopefully what we get throughout this book. Because this book meanders and events happen in the book, it just builds and builds in the interpersonal relationships. The character work is just so wonderful. We get such a sense of who people are very quickly within the story, yet still giving us room to explore and go around the edges of, you know, the changes that they can make. We think, oh god, that person is just that one archetype or that one stereotype, and yet they have room to breathe and grow and get greater. I did talk about the writing style. This is a book that's just about exactly 400 pages long, and it reads slowly. And I don't mean that it's a dense read. It's just a book that has lyrical prose, has great storytelling in a way that encourages you to read slowly. In much the same way as I've been saying about Johnny Wirtz's books. It's not as flowery prose or purple prose as that, but it definitely does have a description and a beauty to the prose that encourages you to really savour in the world, savour in the interactions that people have with each other, and actually think carefully about what this means, because there's a lot of other themes in here around the nature of colonialism and how right it is to be spreading the word and telling people how to live their lives, especially when they seem to have maybe a lot more figured out about the world than you do. And like I say, the hubris nature and how that involves and how that impacts the decision making of our character. I have a really great one-line quote in this that I think kind of sums up, I feel like, where an awful lot of the story is based around. So it's this idea that one of the characters says, faith should be blind, it is said, but not dumb. And the idea that we should be questioning and that we should be people that push at the edges of what our beliefs mean and what people have told us, and how that wraps up in the other world is so fascinating to me. And it's a book that just feels so rich. It's a world that feels so rich. It just feels very, very accomplished. And this is the first book, and I hope P.L. doesn't mind me saying, but like, stunning how well conceptually planned out this is. I'm trying to remember whether P.L. has said whether he did it. I think he is a bit of a planner, but that definitely feels like that. But there's one thing to say events are going to be planned, but then also how do you navigate through those events so that it feels kind of organic, that it feels like things that could have happened in a world, but it feels like things that have possibilities, that it wasn't always predestined to happen this way. And there is a magic system within here that we're just starting to flutter our way through. We're starting to get an idea of what is happening in this world without it being totally explained to you. And ourselves and author and a lot of the characters that are in here, some of them have it more figured out than other ones. There's real mystery, and any book that has mystery within the fantasy context is always going to be a massive, massive winner to me. There are stories to be told. There are things that we need to be figured out. And there's also the promise that there's whole swathes and parts of this world that we haven't experienced or understand yet. And what about the things that we consider to think to be true, but maybe aren't true? So much to get into. I can't tell you how highly I recommend A Drowned Kingdom for anybody that loves epic fantasy, for anybody that loves really rich story building, that loves something that you can really get your teeth into. A Drowned Kingdom is that book. Plus, see this paperback? We don't get trade paperbacks here. For some people it breaks spines. I think they'll struggle to break the spine. It's just a beautiful book to read and to hold in the hand even now. You can see myself being very tactile with it. Have you read A Drowned Kingdom? Have you had similar experiences to me? Have you had different experiences to me? Let me know down in the comments, and I'll speak to you again soon on the channel. Take care. All the best. Bye.